Hello everyone, today I'm going to be showing you how to make your carousel from your Build Your Own Carousel card, taking you through step by step, talking about everything you need to create your very own little scene. Equipment wise, you'll be needing some scissors. You can also use nail scissors. You'll need a ruler, a folder either in plastic or bone, or the blunt edge of a table knife. You need something solid with a straight edge but that isn't sharp, that won't rip the paper. So something like this, or a butter knife. You could even use the pointy part of a pen lid to score along the lines. As well as that, you'll also be needing some sellotape or some double-sided sticky tape, which is my personal favourite to use, or some glue. So first things first, we're going to cut along the edge of our scene and our card. Next, we're going to make it so the scene stands up. Now you need two folds along here and here. It doesn't really matter exactly where on the card that the folds go. I roughly aim for about a quarter of the card because that will leave plenty of room for the card to stand up, but also allow plenty of the background to be seen. So just fold into the middle like that, and then you're able to stand up your scene. For a carousel, the first thing we need to do is cut out all our pieces. For the details here, this will eventually wrap round like this and go over the top. If you don't feel comfortable cutting this out, you can cut straight along here, because this will lie over the top of this, so it will be completely flat on there, so that's fine. Or you can use smaller scissors like your nail scissors to cut into all the details. Don't forget to save the white tabs on the card, because these will help you prop up your little people and your chestnut seller. Okay, let's pull off any extra pieces, and now we've got our two pieces to make our carousel. This is the easiest piece because it doesn't need to be folded anywhere. All you need to do is roll it round. It makes a nice circle. So what we're going to do is I'm going to use double-sided sticky tape to attach this. As I said, you can use sellotape. If you're going to use sellotape, then place your piece of sellotape on the inside of your carousel, and that way it won't show on the outside. Now any extra you can trim off, and if you want you can keep it to use any tiny pieces that may not stick properly. So I'm going to keep that stuck to my finger, peel off the extra tape, line those two up, and then stick that down. Now we've got the first part of our carousel done. You can just give it a little bit of a squeeze once it's stuck, and that will help it keep the nice round shape. Next we're going to do our folding for our roof. This will require a little bit of scoring, so that's the best way to get a fold. You can do it without, but it's much easier if you score the roof first. So for that we need our ruler and then our scoring tool. So as I said before, you've got a few options here. Even if you've got two rulers, that would be a good idea, because you could use the edge of the ruler to score along here. That's a nice safe way of doing it. If you're using a knife, make sure, because you'll need to hold it up this way, make sure it's not a sharp knife, because otherwise you may cut yourself on the knife here. If you aren't an adult, then I would suggest not using a knife, because it can be quite dangerous, obviously, using a knife. Something like a butter knife that has no sharp edges at all is a little easier, but still it's a little bit more of a gamble. So perhaps if you can only use a knife, ask your guardian to do that for you. Again, you've got your option here for your tool. This is actually for clay modelling, so it's just a piece of plastic basically. And then we've got our pen lid. I'll do a little bit with each so you can see the different things you can use, and that they essentially work the same. So you've got your pen lid, line it up and score along the edge. It's created a fold. You've got your plastic folding tool, line it along. Because this is nice and blunt, it means that you can go back and forth and it's not going to cut the paper. That works fine too. You've got your butter knife that has no sharp edges, and go along here. Again, another nice fold line. And then you've got your table knife. This is where you have to be careful. So make sure you're pinching it, you're not got your finger on top, because that's where accidents happen. And these are all nice neat folds that will all work absolutely fine. It's just whatever you feel more comfortable with and what you've got a hold of. I don't have another ruler, otherwise I'd show you with the ruler as well. I think I'm going to use this one. So you can see it's denting my foam board a little bit. You don't need to press too hard. This is just denting because it's foam board, so it doesn't take much pressure to make a dent at all, but just enough to create a mark. And you can also go along here. It's not super necessary. This will fold like this, but you can see it's a little bit more difficult if you haven't got a fold here. So it's really up to you. And then you can also, in between these to the centre, you can go along there as well. That will give a nice crisp look to your roof. Here we go. And now we've created, you can see it's always starting to bend because we've created those scoring lines. Some people prefer to score on the back. That's absolutely fine too. But as long as your tool is nice and blunt, which it should be, nice and blunt and smooth, you shouldn't damage the card or the colour or anything. But if you do find that, you can always just do it on the back, because that will work absolutely fine too. So go along here, and now you can see how easy it is to fold. Just apply that pressure. These don't need to be super sharp folds, just enough to help it keep the shape. And then you've got a nice roof section there. So I've got my sellotape, my double-sided sticky tape, sorry. Again, if you're using single-sided tape, then I would stick inside here, so nothing shows. And you can trim off any excess. You won't need to do this obviously if you're using regular sellotape, because it won't show. And if you are using glue, then I would use some paper clips just to hold it in place while it dries. It'll take you a little bit longer if it's glue because you need to wait for it to dry. Oh, I haven't peeled it off. I was wondering why it wasn't sticking. But you'll need to wait for it to dry between each step if you're using glue. So there we go. Now we've got a roof to go on a carousel. Okay, so now we're going to do our people. Now I prefer to use smaller scissors for doing some smaller items. I just find it a lot easier to do, but it's up to you. If you don't have them, it doesn't matter. It's perfectly possible with larger scissors. But I thought I would show you with nail scissors because most people have nail scissors in their home. So I'll just cut that extra bit. Any extra bits that are getting in the way, just chop them off. Now for the people and the chestnut vendor, you can be very careful and cut all along here into these tiny little nooks and crannies, but the background is white and pink, and the background on the backdrop is also white and pink, so it doesn't really matter if you can't get right in there and get all those tiny pieces because it won't show up too much once it's in front of the backdrop. Okay, now we've got our chestnut vendor set cut out. I'm going to show you how to put the spokes on for him. So for the tabs, we have two different types. Some have the pink lines in the middle, and some have the pink lines off-centre. The off-centre ones are really, it doesn't really matter too much, but the off-centre ones are really for the roasted chestnut vendor. So all you need to do is snip. Don't need to cut in across and up, just snip 2 lines like that, because this will likely be able to pull off, but it doesn't really matter too much because it's better that you take less than you need away here than too much, because you can always take more away if it doesn't quite fit correctly, but once it's cut you can't add it back again, and then you'll not be able to stand up your people very well. So just cut a little bit at a time, snip, snip, and then you can just, even if this won't pull off, that's fine, just fold it back behind, that's okay too. And then I made it so the front part shows less, so just slide it in there. We've got 1, use it the wrong way around, and 2. See, they fall off quite easily, so even that, yours will be a little bit thicker than this, so this they should be the right width for the card you have. This is technically a prototype, so it's much thinner. But even with that thin card and that falling off, you're still perfectly able to stand up your chestnut vendor. So now I'll just do the other 2 quickly so you can see them all together, and then we'll put them together with the scene. Okay, so now we're ready to put it all together. So we've got our scene there ready, and now we can put in our carousel. Little chestnut vendor. And everyone's all done. And that's it. That's how to put together your carousel card. Hope you enjoyed it.